Welcome to the Atomic Drop Podcast One-on-One. I'm your host, Gregg Allen, and today my very special guest is ring announcer, insurance guy, and all-around entertainer. His name is Daniel Max Shaw. Let's go ahead and get started with the show. That is right. It is the Atomic Drop Podcast One-on-One, and let's see. If you look that way, you'll see my special guest tonight. You'll see Mr. Daniel Max Shaw. Daniel, I got to thank you for joining me on such short notice. I know I texted you, and it was like you agreed to come on, and thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
You're welcome, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So, the Atomic Drop Podcast One-on-One. This is where I get to go one-on-one with people in sports, entertainment, pro wrestling. I like professional wrestling myself. And you don't have to be a wrestler. You don't have to be a referee. You don't even have to be just a ring announcer. You can be anybody in the pro wrestling industry, even the guys backstage that are, sweeping the floors. But this is our chance to go one-on-one and learn just a little bit more about the talents that you see in the ring. So, how are you tonight, Daniel? I'm so very sorry about that.
I was just listening. I was enthralled by your intro to this show, and you had me mesmerized and captivated, and now I'm all yours.
All right.
I am Play-Doh in your hands, sir.
So, as many know or may not know, Daniel Max Shaw is the ring announcer for WXW out in Mineola, which is run by, go ahead and enlighten us on who WXW is run by.
WXW, World Extreme Wrestling, is the world-famous promotion run by WWE Hall of Famer Alpha, the Wild Samoan.
Yep, and Daniel very proudly ring announces there. He also serves as an interviewer and backup ring announcer at my home, Atomic Revolutionary Wrestling, where I am the ring announcer. And do you have any other wrestling promotions that you do announcing for?
Wow, I've been doing this going close to a decade pretty soon. And I do have a laundry list, man. I started with Chris Carson at Southern Championship Wrestling, was pretty much exclusive to him for quite a few years. And then about 5-6 years ago, I started branching out. And I do have a list. Some of those promotions still here, some are not still here. Hopefully some are coming back when the world comes back. Shoot, I mean, if I can start naming them, I won't name everybody, so I'll insult somebody. So we'll just say I've been honored to work at many different promotions through the years.
Well, let me ask you this. Let's go back to the beginning, to a younger Daniel Max Shaw. How did he get his start in entertainment, I should say? Because you're not only, a world-class ring announcer, but you are an actor, or as we say in the business, you are a thespian. Yes. So let's go back to maybe when there was a young little Daniel running around, with lollipops and maybe a bat in one hand. What made you want to get into the entertainment industry?
Hey, what's wrong with me running around now with a lollipop and a bat in my hand,
At ARW, that's pretty commonplace.
And I've seen scarier things.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Once I've seen Jerry Swirls in his Golden Girls panties.
That pretty much killed it. That I've seen everything. Yeah.
Crack kills. Just remember that, sir. Wow. It's funny. When I talk to so many people in the wrestling business, I have to admit, I got into it much later than everyone else. It was really more of an adult. I became a fan of it. And I had been doing some acting, some local theater plays. Actually, my first one, which was so much fun but scared the hell out of me, I got to play Felix Unger in The Odd Couple in Island Park, New York.
You kind of do look like the original Felix Unger, though.
Well, here's the weird thing. So I'm seasoned now. Let's just leave it that way. If you ask me about my age, when I played Felix, who is a middle-aged divorcee against his own will, I was in my early 20s, and the rest of the cast, those guys were in their late 40s, early 50s. So I had to try to play like them, which is a challenge because they're literally a generation ahead of me. But yeah, it was a great experience. Of course, that's a heck of a thing to jump into for your first play because Felix has literally half the lines in the entire play. So if you're going to get started with one, that was one to get started with.
That is definitely one to get started with. Felix Unger is a, how should we say, a very diverse character.
I won't do any more of the da-da-da-da in case you get dinged by somebody for music copyright violation.
Yeah, but be careful. This is going on YouTube. I could probably get copyright violated. But you know what? Screw them. If they can't take a joke.
Hey, you're the comic. I've heard you like getting violated. Oh!
That's not me. That's Jerry.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I got you guys. So, because you all have that kind of a special. You two do have a special relationship, and we'll just leave it at that.
I don't know what you're talking about. I deny any knowing anything. So, anyway, back to what we were talking about here. So, you're in this play. You play Felix Unger, and now Daniel Shaw, young Daniel Shaw, has caught the acting bug. He is now wanting to act. He loves the accolades. So life goes on for you. Do you educate yourself more on acting? Do you take any lessons? Any professional?
Well, I did take some courses, but at the time I got married. So life kind of got in the way, and I ended up becoming a headhunter on Wall Street for quite a few years, which was interesting and that you kind of had to play a character on the phones. So my acting came into play, and did that for a number of years working in the heart of downtown Manhattan, right across the street from the famous Madison Square Garden where all the great WWF events were being held. And then I got, as Billy Joel said, divorced as a matter of course, we parted the closest of friends, and eventually found my way to sunny Orlando, Florida, and changed the profession here. Became the health and life insurance agent. By the way, feel free to call me if you need help in that area, especially in open enrollment season. Little plug. cheap pop.
Daniel Max Shaw on Facebook. Just search him. You'll find him. He'll give you some great insurance quotes, guys.
There you go. I give great insurance, they say. So, yes.
Never mind.
So, I left in November of 2002 during the middle of a massive snowstorm. The day before, I'm in New York, driving my second of my 3 red Firebirds into the street, hit an ice patch at a 360, parked that car, got in my truck, drove down here. 48 hours later, it's sunshine and palm trees and no snow, and I'm like, I like it here. So after a couple of months of basically enjoying myself, enjoying the sun, Universal Studios, decided, well, I need to go make some money. So I got into the insurance business. And the funny part was I was really actively looking to get into acting again. And I had, God rest his soul, Bill Davitt. He was my sales manager at the insurance company. And the man seemed to always know what you were thinking. It scared the hell out of me during an early meeting, saying to nobody in particular, but glanced at me when he said this. And I'd never had a conversation with the man about what I was doing outside of insurance. He says, well, you need to be focused on what you do. If you're just planning to be an actor and you're going to do this, don't do this. Scared the hell out of me. So I kind of put my acting a little bit on the side, focused on the insurance. But about 3 years later, and I did send out some headshots, I am on an insurance trip in Las Vegas. Bring a buddy of mine with me because I was dating this girl and I was kind of looking to undate her. It was not going too well. So I called her up. I said, hey, say names. So I won this trip to Vegas. I guess we can go. It's 3 days. She goes, oh, no, that's not enough. You need to make it a week, and you're going to call them, and you're going to call them and extend the hotel and this. And I'm like, that kind of reminds me, I wanted to have a conversation with you. And I actually broke up with her on that phone call. That was fun. And I ended up calling my old buddy from high school, Frankie. I'm like, hey, so I got an extra seat for a Vegas trip. You want to go? So we go down there together. He knows a girl who works for the New York Times. She's in the entertainment field. She gets us free tickets to go see Mamma Mia at, it'll come to me later. But So we're watching Mamma Mia, and this guy's known me since high school. He goes, "How come you've never been acting?" I said, "Well, you get busy with life." He goes, "Dude, that was always your dream." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. Now, I don't know if it's the intentions or the book The Secret or the power of positive thinking. I don't know what it was. But for a week, I'm back home, and every day I'm thinking about the acting. Every day I'm like, yeah, I should. A week later, I get a phone call. And the fellow says, Dan Shaw. I'm thinking, okay. Not a bill collector, hopefully. Okay, no. Yes. He's like, Dean Baker. I'm like, Dean Baker. I don't know how Dean Baker's. Yeah, Dean. He goes, do you remember you sent me your headshots 3 years ago? I'm like, of course I do. He goes, you're still acting, right? I said, of course I am. He goes, you'd be perfect. I had somebody drop out of a commercial tonight. I looked at you. You would be perfect. It pays $200 1 hour. I'm like, what is it? He goes, a sleazy car salesman. I said, I'm your guy. So I was a sleazy car salesman for DB Productions or Post FX Media's commercials about 12 years ago. And that did air.
Can we find those videos on YouTube? Because anybody watching this is going to go to YouTube and try to find these commercials.
I'll make it easy. If you search Daniel Max Shaw auto commercial, you will find one. Because I did get one and I posted it. And I was a sleazy car salesman, which is really fun because every now and then you go to an insurance client, they're like, I know you from somewhere. I'm like, no.
Nah, you don't know me.
So I caught the bug again. I've got a small part in Fiesta Grande. David Belsuto directed that. It's a Hispanic takeoff on the old Tom Hanks movie Bachelor Party. I have a small part in that in the beginning of the movie as a sleazy businessman.
So you're hanging with the sleazy reputation so far.
No, I realize what it is. It's not that I'm talented. It's that I'm the only guy in Florida that actually owns a suit. So this is why they hire me for these things.
Yes, I'll admit you're the only one that does own a suit.
Possibly. It's why
I have a suit jacket. I just don't have the tie, and I hate ties. So,
but you know what? It's Atomic, baby. Every show is different. Every show has its own character, and unfortunately, there's a lot of indies that don't have much character. They're kind of interchangeable. Atomic has its own character. It's the new House of Extreme. It's different than another show. It has Jerry Swirls, Ass Crack, The Golden Girls. I mean, that's an Atomic original.
Yeah.
Actually, now I understand Jerry's serious, and I applaud him for doing that. But you know what? It's not you. You're not the tie guy. So
no,
don't be
I'm not, and I told Albert that on his way out. I said I don't do ties. He says, "Brother, do you?" So
That's
speaking of wrestling, because you and I work together at not only Atomic, but we also work together at Riot Pro Wrestling. They have a show coming up in November. Speaking of wrestling,
Riot Pro Wrestling presents Revolution. Sorry, I just don't to my announcer's voice.
That's fine. Speaking of that, you just talked about how you got into acting and all of that.
Yes.
How did you get involved in this crazy thing called professional wrestling?
Over a beer.
Seriously.
Hmm?
Wow.
Yep.
Over a beer. And who was this beer with?
Okay. So, I got introduced to a gentleman by the name of Chris Carson, who used to run, probably still does, although it's been on hiatus for a bit, Southern Championship Wrestling, a.k.a. SCW. And we got to actually be buddies, so we're hanging out. And he'd asked me to do a show before, but the timing didn't work out. And one night over a beer at the Wing House, we're just having a conversation, and I don't know. I just floated out there. I'm like, if you ever need somebody to, work or announce on a show, he goes, you're on the next show. I'm like, what? He goes, that was perfect timing. My ring announcer can't make it. She's got work that night. Thanks. I'm like, okay.
You literally, over a beer, just walked into the job.
Well, and then I walked into the venue, which was the old Salvation Army Gym on 24th Street in Sanford, Florida. I remember, wow, there's the ring and it's all lit up. And now Carson likes a certain way to do the lighting. So he drops the house lights and only puts one light over the ring. So it's like old boxing, like an old boxing movie from the 30s or 40s, the way, lighting used to be done. And we've got gorilla position over here. We've got the curtain over here. So I didn't mean to use inside terms. Ricky Santana would be pissed on that one, but he's not listening anyway, so who cares? So I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty exciting. And they say, okay, Well, you're going to announce, but you're also going to do interviews, which honestly I kind of like better than announcing. Don't tell anybody that. Nobody's listening to this anyway, right?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we may have one person, but
yeah. So what happened was I'm looking at the whole setup. I'm like, this is great. I'm like, wait a minute. So you've got a screen going out to the crowd. Hit a big, like 10-foot by 10-foot screen, and they were going to shoot me interviewing talent behind the curtain of the entrance. Except it's black pipe and drape, and there's no lights back there, and there's no house lights. So I'm like, and I won't say his name because he's still a friend of mine to this day. I'm like, brother, what about the lighting? He goes, what about it? I said, there's going to be no house lighting. The only light in the building is over there by the ring. You've got me behind a black curtain interviewing people. How are they going to see me? Horror just hits the man's face. It'll work. I'm like, really? It'll work, trust me. By the way, if you know in Yiddish what trust me means, I won't say it on your show. So we do the show, and I announce the first couple of matches. I'm all pumped up, having a great time. Run behind the curtain. I'm interviewing SCW champion London Vice, I believe it was. And I'm all excited. We go to intermission. I run out to the crowds and my friends. I'm like, hey, how did that interview look? And they're like, it sounded great. I'm like, yeah, but how did it look? Like a big black square. So I'm like, oh. So this was just when smartphones were kind of a happening thing. And back then, remember, you had to download the flashlight apps. So I had like about 7 people standing around me in a circle downloading flashlight apps trying to give us nights. So that was fun. And, man, I was off to the races. That started my adventures in pro wrestling. Ring announcing, interviewing, that'd be me.
All right. And let's go ahead and end this on this note. And it's something I like to ask myself, and I'm going to like to ask everybody. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you see yourself as more of an actor or more in the sports entertainment business?
Why not both?
Fair answer. Go ahead and give everybody your social media info. Let them know where they can find you, how they can find out more about you.
Awesome. Well, I'm an open book. I don't know if anybody really wants to read it, but it's open. So I'm easy to find on social media. If you Google Daniel Max with an X Shaw, I'm easy to find on all your social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, MySpace, Friendster, whatever is still around at this point. Not much on Snapchat, but who the heck knows. And, of course, I have been starting my own promotion. People do know about Pro Wrestling Action. We were slightly delayed thanks to a little thing called the coronavirus, but we're still planning to make our debut just a little bit later, so in 2021. So also you can Google Pro Wrestling Action and ProWrestlingAction.com, and of course DanielMaxShaw.com, which also has links to fine wrestling promotions such as Atomic Revolutionary Wrestling.
All right, Daniel, I really want to thank you for taking the time out to be my very first guest on Atomic Drop Podcast one-on-one, and we'll be seeing you soon.
It was a piece of cake.
He's so funny. All right. Thank you, Daniel. You have a great night.
All right, brother. A pleasure.